I read something that initially made me very excited to watch Call of the Wild. And then I read something else. And then I read something after that. And I realised I was no longer as excited. But I was still very curious. And this is concerning the relationship, to perhaps want for a better word, between Clark Gable and Loretta Young, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. The film was released in 1935. It's directed by William A. Wellman. It's written by Gene Fowler and Leonard Praskins, based on The Call of the Wild by Jack London, with a cast including, of course, Clark Gable and Loretta Young. And I'll talk about the narrative in a moment, but to explain my reason for wanting to watch this, initially I read a book, and I wish I could name these books. I really can't. I've read a lot of books about classic Hollywood in a short period of time, so the titles are all a bit of a blur. But I initially read a book that basically said they grew very close, and Loretta Young had a secret pregnancy, gave birth to a daughter, and then later adopted that daughter. This is Judy Lewis. To make it seem like she'd adopted the child, nobody was to know about her relationship with Clark Gable. Interesting enough, the book didn't mention what several other books that I read afterwards mentioned, and that this is allegedly, it was actually not consensual, the encounter. This came about, apparently, when Loretta Young, years and years and years later, learned about date assault. I can't say the word on YouTube, of course, and she happened to mention to somebody that that's what happened to her, and that's how she conceived her daughter. So obviously when I learned that, and several books repeated this information, it made me less positive about watching the film, but it did make it an interesting experience. Now, do I need that background information to enjoy the film? Absolutely not, but it does make it, from a historical perspective, with cinema history, it does make it just a little bit more interesting. I won't say entertaining, but certainly fascinating. As for the film itself, yeah, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. During the Klondike Gold Rush, Jack and a beautiful dog head out in search of fortune, and they come across Claire. They rescue her, and the story continues. Their adventure continues. And as for the story, it's fine. This is not the first version that I've seen of this story, and it's never going to be my personal favourite kind of narrative, but it works well enough. The pacing is fine. The specifics make sense within the context of the film. I have no issues with the narrative. Maybe it was a little slow at times, and maybe there are a few scenes where not a great deal happens, but generally speaking, I don't think the narrative was badly handled. I wasn't emotionally invested in the story, but I don't really have any complaints. However, the characters are very easy to care for. They're very well written. The performances are very good. And I will say I was maybe a little emotionally invested in the characters, if not the specifics of their story. So that did help to make it a bit more engaging. The animals in the film are beautiful. Buck is stunning. Buck is a Saint Bernard, played by a dog called Buck. And he was actually in a total of 8 films during his career over the course of about 5 years. He was trained by Carl Spitz, who also trained the dog who plays Toto in The Wizard of Oz. And I do think I was more interested in the dog than any other aspect of the film. But Buck is really beautiful. But I will say as well, it's not a difficult watch. It's quite an easy watch. I wouldn't say it's a relaxing watch necessarily, but it's not too intense for the most part, but certainly there are scenes that are intense. But again, because I wasn't really emotionally invested in the narrative, I perhaps didn't enjoy them as much as I could have done. It's an okay film. It's a decent enough story. The characters I do genuinely like, I did care for, and the performances are very good. Visually, it's good with great locations, good camera work. But of course, knowing what I know about how Judy Lewis was allegedly conceived, and obviously that's challenging. Nobody wants to think that that happened that way. It does make it a slightly more uncomfortable experience. Would I have felt any differently about the film itself had I not had any of that knowledge? No, I don't think so. I think the narrative would have given me the same, I was going to say emotional response, but I guess lack thereof. I would have liked the characters as much. So it makes it a bit more fascinating to study from a film history perspective, but the film on its own, I think the experience will be the same either way. Do I recommend it? Sure. If you're curious, check it out. If you have any thoughts on Loretta Young and Clark Gable, I'd love to hear what you think. And certainly, while I wouldn't watch the film again, I enjoyed bits of it. Buck was adorable. It's definitely not a bad film.